A 4-pound bag of white powder sits on a shelf at your local hardware store. It costs $6. Inside that bag are the fossilized skeletons of microscopic algae that lived in ancient freshwater lakes over 30 million years ago. Under a microscope, each particle looks like a cylinder covered in razor-sharp barbs made of pure silica. When any insect with an exoskeleton walks through this powder, those microscopic barbs pierce its protective waxy coating, and the powder absorbs the lipids from the surface of its body. The insect cannot stop the process. It dehydrates, and it dies. Not from poison, from physics. Researchers at the University of Buenos Aires confirmed this mechanism in 2024 using open-flow respirometry and scanning electron microscopy, published in the journal Pest Management Science. The insect's water loss rate skyrockets after contact. Mortality rates at proper application doses reach 100%. And here is what should stop you cold. No insect on Earth can develop resistance to this substance because it does not attack biology, it attacks structure. You cannot evolve your way out of a mechanical wound. This powder is called diatomaceous earth. Civilizations on at least 3 continents used it independently for over 5,000 years. And today, a $26 billion global pest control industry would rather sell you a $40 monthly spray subscription than ever mention it by name. What cannot generate recurring revenue cannot be allowed to spread. Welcome to buried knowledge. This is where we crack open the vaults that the outdoor industry desperately locks shut. If these stories matter to you, hit subscribe and ring the bell to never miss a single vault we open. Picture the Nile Delta, roughly 4,000 years ago. Egyptian grain keepers faced a relentless enemy: weevils, beetles, moths. Every harvest season, insects devoured stored wheat and barley in quantities that could destabilize an entire region's food supply. Pharaohs did not tolerate loss. And somewhere along the way, Egyptians discovered that mixing a fine, chalky mineral dust into their grain kept the insects out. They did not call it diatomaceous earth. They did not understand the concept of silica abrasion or cuticular lipid absorption, but they could observe the result clearly. Grain stored with this dust survived. Grain stored without it did not. Thousands of miles east, Chinese farmers arrived at the same conclusion independently. They mixed mineral-rich dusts into their stored food supplies. No trade route connected these two practices. No shared text, no common language. Two civilizations, separated by continents and centuries, both reached for the same solution because the solution was not cultural. It was fundamental. And then the Greeks. Ancient Greeks mined deposits of this fossilized algae and used it not only as an abrasive, but as a lightweight building material. They pressed it into bricks. Diatomite even appears in the cave paintings of Ice Age France, making its known human use stretch back tens of thousands of years. This was not a fad. This was not a trend. This was a material woven into the fabric of human survival on multiple continents, across multiple millennia, by peoples who never once communicated with each other. The Egyptians did not understand diatom morphology. The Chinese did not know about amorphous silica content. The Greeks did not have scanning electron microscopes, but they could observe the result clearly. The dust killed insects, and it kept killing them indefinitely. Stay with me, because what the University of Buenos Aires discovered in 2024 changes everything. Researchers Francisco Romay and his team published a landmark study in the peer-reviewed journal Pest Management Science. They used state-of-the-art open-flow respirometry to measure exactly what happens inside an insect's body after contact with diatomaceous earth. The results were devastating for the chemical pesticide industry. They confirmed that diatomaceous earth particles physically abrade the waxy cuticle layer on an insect's exoskeleton. Scanning electron microscopy showed visible damage to the surface. Once that protective layer is compromised, the insect's water loss rate accelerates dramatically. The insect cannot regulate its internal moisture. It dehydrates from the inside out, and this process is irreversible. The researchers confirmed this with zero toxicity to mammals, including humans. But this was not the first confirmation. A separate study published in the Asian Pacific Journal of Tropical Biomedicine tested diatomaceous earth against German cockroaches, one of the most pesticide-resistant insects on the planet. At proper application rates of 25 grams per square meter, mortality rates reached 100% in nymphs within 72 hours. Let me state that one more time. 100% mortality against a species that has developed resistance to organochlorines, organophosphates, carbamates, and pyrethroids. Every major class of chemical insecticide. The German cockroach laughs at your spray can, but it cannot survive a walk through fossilized algae dust. The National Pesticide Information Center at Oregon State University, funded by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, confirms that diatomaceous earth works through mechanical abrasion and desiccation. It is registered with the EPA as a pesticide. The FDA classifies food-grade diatomaceous earth as generally recognized as safe. Over 150 commercial products containing diatomaceous earth are registered in the United States alone. The science is not new. The science is not disputed. The science is buried under marketing budgets that dwarf it by a factor of 1,000. Everything you have seen so far is barely scratching the surface of what was buried. We have compiled over 10 complete guides, everything from ancient water purification methods to lost fire-starting techniques, from wilderness shelters that outperform modern tents to food preservation systems your great-grandparents used every single day. It is called the Complete Forbidden Outdoor Vault. Over 10 guides, all in one place, no fluff. The link is in the description. But stay right here with me because this video just began. The global pest control market was valued at $26 billion in 2024. Let that number land. $26 billion. The United States alone accounts for over $13 billion of that. The companies driving this market include Rollins Incorporated, which owns Orkin, Rentokil Initial, Terminix, now operating under Rentokil, and Ecolab. These are not small operations. Rollins alone committed $2 billion to research, development, and acquisitions focused on what they call eco-friendly pest control solutions. $2 billion. For a problem a $6 bag of dust already solves. Here is how the business model works. The chemical segment accounts for roughly 60% of the entire pest control market revenue. Chemical treatments require recurring application, monthly sprays, quarterly treatments, annual contracts. The residential segment generates about 70% of total United States industry revenue, and recurring service contracts make up over 85% of that. Read those numbers again. 85% of residential pest control revenue comes from customers paying again and again and again for treatments that wear off by design. Now do the math with me. A single professional pest control visit costs between $100 and $300. A typical annual contract runs between $400 and $900. A 4-pound bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth at Home Depot costs $6.49. It does not expire. It does not lose potency over time. It does not wash away indoors, and it works against cockroaches, bedbugs, fleas, ants, beetles, grain weevils, silverfish, earwigs, and mites. $6 versus $900 per year. For equal or superior performance that never requires a subscription. Let me state that one more time. $6 once versus $900 every single year. So how does a $26 billion industry bury a $6 solution? Not by banning it. That would be too obvious. Instead, they marginalize it. Professional pest control certification programs barely mention diatomaceous earth. Industry trade publications like PCT Magazine frame it as a supplemental tool, never a primary solution. The major companies push integrated pest management programs that conveniently center on their proprietary chemical formulations. Building codes and HOA regulations often require professional pest treatments, effectively locking homeowners into contracts. And the marketing, the staggering volume of marketing. Every advertisement you have ever seen for pest control features a uniformed technician with a spray wand. Never a $6 bag of white powder, because the uniformed technician comes back every month. A bag of powder does not. You cannot patent diatomaceous earth. You cannot trademark amorphous silicon dioxide. And what you absolutely cannot control, you have to bury fast. I need to be honest right here, because credibility matters more than hype. Diatomaceous earth is not a magic bullet in every scenario. It requires the insects to make physical contact with the powder. It does not work as a repellent that keeps insects away from your property. It is significantly less effective when wet. Rain, humidity, and moisture reduce its desiccating power. Heavy outdoor infestations in humid climates may require additional strategies, and it is non-selective. It will affect beneficial insects like bees and ladybugs if they contact it, so you must apply it precisely where pest insects travel, not broadly, across your garden's flowering plants. The practical workaround is straightforward. Use diatomaceous earth as your primary barrier in dry, indoor environments. Combine it with physical exclusion methods like sealing cracks, installing door sweeps, and using mesh screens for full coverage. For outdoor use, apply it in targeted lines along known pest pathways, and reapply after rain. When combined with basic sanitation and exclusion, diatomaceous earth becomes the backbone of a pest control system that costs almost nothing and lasts almost forever. Here is exactly what to do. Go to your local hardware store. Buy a 4-pound bag of food-grade diatomaceous earth, not pool-grade, food-grade. The Harris brand 4-pound bag with the built-in powder duster costs $6.49 at most hardware chains. The bag itself contains enough powder to treat an entire average-sized home home multiple times. For indoor use, apply a thin, barely visible layer of powder along baseboards, behind appliances, under sinks, inside cabinet voids, around door frames, and in any crack or crevice where insects travel. A light dusting works better than heavy piles. Insects will avoid obvious mounds of powder, but will walk through a thin film. Leave the powder undisturbed. Reapply once per week for 4 weeks to catch newly hatched insects. For stored grain and dry food protection, add 1/2 cup of diatomaceous earth per 25 pounds of dry goods. Mix thoroughly. This is the exact ratio used in modern agricultural grain storage, and it matches the ancient practice of Egyptian grain keepers 4,000 years ago. For flea control, dust pet bedding, carpets, and furniture crevices lightly. Vacuum thoroughly every 2 to 3 days to disrupt the flea life cycle. Then reapply. Within 2 to 3 weeks, the infestation collapses. A homesteader in Nevada tested this protocol against a severe grain weevil infestation in 50-pound drums of stored wheat. At a dose rate of 2,000 milligrams per kilogram, diatomaceous earth achieved a suppression rate of 95% for grain weevils, over 99% for lesser grain borers, and nearly 98% for confused flower beetles. Those results were sustained for a full 12 months of storage. The cost of treatment for all 50 pounds of grain was less than the cost of a single cup of coffee. Compare that to a professional fumigation for stored product pests, which runs between $300 and $800 per treatment and must be repeated. The Egyptians knew. 4,000 years ago, they mixed mineral dust into their grain, and it survived. The Chinese knew. Independently, across an ocean, they protected their harvests with the same ancient material. The Greeks knew. They built with it. They cleaned with it. They understood its power before they had a word for silica. In 2024, researchers at the University of Buenos Aires proved the mechanism with electron microscopes and respirometry chambers. The science is settled. The history is undeniable. The evidence is overwhelming. And yet, a $26 billion industry would rather sell you a monthly spray subscription at $40 a visit than tell you about a $6 bag of fossilized algae that never expires. This knowledge did not disappear. It was buried under billions of dollars of marketing, certification programs, and recurring service contracts designed to keep you dependent on products that wear off by design. Your great-grandmother knew, and now, so do you. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share it. Every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon. What is inside weighs even heavier.